It is official. New York City, January 31st. Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez. I always say it, when boxing gets it right, no other sport comes close. And this is boxing getting it right. The best fighting the best. Both fighters believe that this matchup settles the argument about who leads the new era. So what do we think of the Styles matchup, guys? This is a high-speed chess match a la Sugar Ray Leonard or Pernell Whitaker, Leonard and Benitez, or Pernell Whitaker, Buddy McGirt, or is it a Jerry versus Jerry fight, right? Because no one wants to take the lead, or is it something else? Malik, I'll start with you.
I think it's a very special fight. It's the type of matchups we always are acting for. When it comes to explosiveness, I would have to go with Tio. When it comes to actual rapid speed, I would have to go with Tio. But when it comes to body punching, when it comes to good timing, when it comes to craft, I would have to give all of that to Shakur Stevenson.
What do you think, Doug?
They're both boxers. I look at Stevenson as a versatile technician. I look at Teofimo. He's a boxer-puncher, but his specialty is his counterpunching. Mm-hmm. Listen, if Stevenson wants to be on his stick-and-move game, very difficult style matchup for Teofimo, and maybe not that entertaining to the fans.
Because Stevenson's longer.
Exactly.
Stevenson's defense probably the best in the game, and he's longer.
Great reflexes and timing, and so does Teo. That's why he's a great counterpuncher. Mm-hmm. But he's a very special athlete, and as a competitor, he is one of those guys who saves his A game for a fellow elite opponent. That's when he really rises his game and shows us the Teofimo Lopez that everybody thought he was when he was a prospect. People used to look at him and say, oh, this guy is going to be the star in boxing. It didn't really play out that way, but every now and then he reminds us how special he is.
Yes. Teofimo is a two-division Ring Magazine champion. In both fights where he won the Ring Magazine championship, he was the underdog. 4-1 underdog against Lomachenko. People forget, Lomachenko was taking elite fighters in the lower divisions and they were quitting.
Yes.
He was beating them into some, they were like, I can't do this, right? And Teofimo beat him, right? He outboxed him.
Yeah, he didn't do it by physically imposing himself on him.
He outboxed him, he outfought him, he had speed, power, and then again, against Josh Taylor at junior welterweight, he was the underdog. So he saves his best for his biggest moments.
Yes, and Max, and look, I give Shakur a lot of credit, right? Because we see fighters like Bruce Ennis that want to do a tune-up fight at their first fight at the new weight. And like Devin Haney, Shakur saying, I'll go right to the top dog at 140. So props to my best friend, Shakur Stevenson, Max.
Yes.
But look,
What is the beef with you two?
I think it's fun, I think we. I don't think it's real hate.
You have this ability to bring out a certain kind of animosity in people in the boxing world. Does this extend to outside the boxing world?
Yeah, it does.
Or it does.
I've had that ability since I've been like 4 years old, Max, and growing up. But you asked about Teo. I actually think this fight is about Teofimo more than it is about Shakur Stevenson. And the reason I say that is to what Doug said. When Teofimo Lopez rises to the occasion, he looks like a guy that can't be beat sometimes. And I say it's really about Teo here because Shakur, like you said, he's the favorite, 3.5 to 1 favorite right now. He's the one moving up in weight. And if you look at it stylistically, Shakur, right, he's the better boxer. We've seen Teo have problems with, fast and fleet boxers like Sandor Martin and Jermaine Ortiz. But then you think about sometimes when Teo rises to the occasion, I mean, the odds were closer in the Josh Taylor fight, but everyone was picking Josh Taylor that you spoke to in boxing. Yeah. And we saw what Teo did to Josh Taylor. We saw what Teo did to Lomachenko. And one of the things that I think that gets lost in that fight against Lomachenko is Teo threw more than 100 punches in the final round to make sure he won that fight.
Yeah, no question. Even in the loss that he had against Kambosos, where he had a puncture, like he had some medical condition in his esophagus that was dangerous actually, and it looked like an off night. By the way, George Kambosos doesn't like when I say this, and I apologize. I understand it feels unfair to you, and maybe it is unfair, but this is my honest opinion. It may be, but it is still my honest opinion, Malik. I just have to be honest with the way I see it. I don't think that was the best version of Teo by a long shot. But even then, he was rallying in that fight late. He has championship heart. And the thing I like about Teo's style, when you have a guy like Shakur whose defense is that good, and he's not just a guy who's going to hug you, he can box, the easiest thing in the world is just to pick him against everybody.
Right.
Yes.
But Teo also has the kind of footwork, Malik, where he steps around guys. And I think about Buddy McGirt, Meldrick Taylor.
Yes.
Roy, where Meldrick had quick enough feet where if you were going to come right at Buddy McGirt, he could box you. But Meldrick could give him angles that were more difficult. I think of Roy Jones, James Toney. If you were going to go at James Toney, forget it. His defense is too good. But Roy had the feet to move around James Toney, and maybe Teo has the feet to move around Shakur.
I seriously doubt it, man. Shakur is a whole different type of animal. His ring IQ is up there with the best. He's getting literally, I don't know how many times we've seen 2 pound-for-pound fighters sparring each other. Shakur Stevenson is getting top quality work, literally top quality work. And that makes me want to ask, I wonder how he look at his opponents after boxing Bud so many times and always in camp with Bud, and not just in camp with him, sparring him. I'm sure that played a big factor in his confidence.
What do you guys think about the idea? I look at this fight, Teo has more to lose. Sorry. Shakur has more to lose. Yes. He's the undefeated fighter. He's seen as the eventual pound-for-pound champ potentially. But Teo has more to win. He has more to gain. So on the one hand, is there an advantage there where Shakur is fighting to protect that perfect record, to protect that kind of sense that he's the next guy? On the other hand, Teo is like he can fight with more abandon against Shakur because there's so much for him to gain. And if he loses, he's lost before. He's lost to Kambosos, and he came back from that. But oh my God, if he can pull it off. Like if it's a close fight, and Teo could keep it close, and we're going into the 10th, 11th, 12th rounds, is there an advantage there, given that situation?
He came back from that Kambosos fight, but in some way, the jury is still out on Teo a little bit, because I'm going to tell you why. On that card that was done in Times Square, he looked the best out of, with all due respect, out of a lot of people that didn't look good.
Yep.
But if you put him in the main event somewhere, that people wouldn't, to me, really raved about that fight.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So the jury, he still have a lot to prove too. Not as much as Shakur, but he definitely do have a lot to prove still.
Yeah, I agree with you, Max. I think Shakur has more to lose here. Shakur is the one that's thought of as, like you said, pound for pound number one day, maybe someday in the not too distant future. He's the favorite in this fight, bigger favorite than anything any of us anticipated, at around 3.5 to 1. But Teo, look, what I look at here is I think Teofimo, yes, he's had problems with boxers, which scares me for Teo, but I'm going to use your word, Max, fast twitchies.
Yep.
Shakur Stevenson had a lot of problems with Edwin De Los Santos. I think that was a majority decision, and De Los Santos, what does he have? Very twitchy guy, athletic.
And the difference here is that they're both twitchy, they're both fast, they're both excellent boxers. Teo's a puncher. I know it hasn't shown up in recent fights, but we have watched both of their careers. Shakur is not a puncher.
No.
Teo is.
Teo it can be an explosive, I hit you with a shot you don't see, and you are out cold type puncher.
And talking about power, strength too. I think Teo's going to be the much stronger guy in there. Shakur Stevenson's not a strong guy.
I think he's getting stronger.
Me too.
Yeah,
I was about to say.
Definitely
But this is his first fight at 140, though. That's what I'm saying. I'm not disrespecting
I
his
feel
strength.
I also feel like that Shakur might surprise you, Mike, with his physical strength. Physical strength, as we all know, doesn't always translate to punching power.
Sure, of course not.
But when he was a younger fighter, he looked like he could be moved around by his opponent.
Like
it doesn't look like that anymore.
No, he's definitely matured in his body. But first fight at 140, Teo's what? I think this is maybe his 5th fight at 140?
Yeah.
Something like that?
That's true, but Shakur has a frame where he can put on 140 very comfortably. I think he's going to look as strong as Devin Haney did stepping up to 147.
I believe so
think
too,
he's going to
Joe.
feel really good at junior welterweight.
Shakur is one of those guys who comes along, and I think this is really the question about him. I said he is one of those guys. Is he one of those guys? Like Purnell, like Roy, like Floyd, their defenses were so good, and they boxed in a way where they weren't going to take unnecessary risks. They weren't running and holding. I had a problem with the second half of the Haney-Norman fight because I felt like they continue to box. Purnell did, Roy did, and Shakur does now, right? But when a guy has those advantages in boxing skill and speed, and they don't take risks, they are almost impossible to beat. So no matter who Purnell was fighting, no matter who Roy was fighting, if someone would have asked me who they're going to be, they're fighting Godzilla, Purnell. They're fighting Roy. Shakur has that look to me, and the style to me, but does he rise to that level? Because it's not enough just to have that. It has to be executed at an extremely high level. Do you guys feel like he has that look to you?
Well, it showed against Zepeda that he will rise to that level.
But Zepeda's not elite. Zepeda's never been in anybody's
and he's a lot more
pound.
stationary and front foot just one way. But considering, I like to go back to the performance rate. So anything Zepeda is not considered after he fought Shakur, he really wasn't considered. So Shakur was going in there expecting a whole lot from him, especially the hype that was behind him. And I love how he rose to the occasion and did everything he had to do to win.
Yeah.
He showed guts in that fight.
Yes.
He showed
showed a lot of
stamina.
guts.
He showed a willingness to stand and trade.
Yes.
Showed toughness.
But it's
But like-
easy to show guts, easier to show guts when the guy's not a puncher.
Right.
Right.
Zepeda's a high volume guy,
high
he's not
volume guy,
a
not a
puncher.
puncher.
Teofimo is a puncher. He
Yeah.
really is a
And we
puncher.
He's got
Teo-
that one punch power.
Yeah, but
you
Josh
didn't-
Taylor,
fast as
we didn't
sneaky.
see that when he just fought Barboza. I didn't see nothing.
Yeah,
about
that's
a
why
big
I
puncher.
don't consider that a
I'm kinda
top
getting off of
performance.
that.
I don't
I will
consider
say
that
this.
top
I was
performance from
on
Lopez.
ringside for that fight, and I thought there were several times where Barboza did not push the action because he felt Teo's power. Teo was countering on some big hard
Yeah,
shots.
but the
There's
truth
a reason he wasn't going
That's what I
for a guy.
believe.
Okay.
But the truth is, I know what you mean, that Teo was a lights-out puncher at 135
Sure. I'm
pounds.
talking about out cold.
Once he moved up to 140, it was much more of the footwork
Yes.
and hit you with punches you don't see and win on points than it was the or the destructive guy at the lighter weight. Terrence Crawford, guys, posted the following on his social media. Okay, quote, "I don't know it all, but what I do know is Shakur Stevenson beating the bleep out of Teofimo Lopez." Now, Shakur Stevenson might box the bleep out of guys. He doesn't really beat the bleep out of anybody.
Well,
what do we think of this?
But from a boxing perspective, a lot of people would consider, if you're a boxer, like, Buddy McGirt is my guy, but I would consider in the second fight, I would consider that was a beating Pernell Whitaker put on him from a boxer standpoint. I would say what Shakur did to Zepeda in a good fight, he really beat him up.
I mean, Terrence Crawford beats guys up.
not punishing.
Marvin Hagler beat guys up.
Very punishing, but I'm talking about from a boxer back foot
Yeah.
type of guy.
Yeah.
He really put a number on Zepeda.
He did. He boxed him.
I don't see him putting a terrible physical beating on Lopez, but I
I'll be
do
shocked.
see him. I do see Shakur standing his ground and fighting in the pocket more than people
Do
expect.
you see him being successful doing that, Doug?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I feel like this fight is a winner's bracket fight from an era, but we're getting it now. You know, when you look at like Tank and Haney and Ryan and this and that, and Shakur and Teofimo and Lomachenko, even though he was older, but there were a whole bunch of really talented guys in and around the weight neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I feel like these two could have easily been the two when the dust settled left standing, but the dust hasn't settled yet. They're just getting it on.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's what excites me about the fight.